All right, well, welcome back again today. Today we're going to talk about a powerful principle that you can use to heal yourself and to heal your marriage. So stay tuned. All right, so let's jump into this topic about healing yourself. And I want to share with you today a really important principle that has to do with healing the mind and healing a relationship. Right, so you've probably heard about this term, time under tension. It's a term that we use a lot in the exercising world, right? So individuals who are working on strength training, muscle building, right? Individuals who are bodybuilders, right, or are strength trainers, they'll talk about this time under tension principle. And in the fitness world, what time under tension means is how long a muscle is held under tension during one set, right? So this concept then is you lengthen out each phase of a movement to make the set longer. It causes the muscle to work harder, which optimizes strength, endurance, and growth. So let's take that same concept then and apply it to the mind, right? This idea that the more I exercise a muscle in my mind, right? If we think about the mind as a muscle, the more I exercise my mind and I put my mind under tension over an extended period of time, the more I can maybe move my mind into a new place. Right? So this concept is really important because a lot of what we feel every day, a lot of the emotions that we carry around every day are derived out of thought, right? If you really get down to the heart of what a person is feeling, there's typically a narrative going on in their mind, sometimes subconscious, they're not even aware of it, that is feeding that emotional experience. And our emotions oftentimes are driving the choices that we make, the behavior that we exhibit every day. So if we take a look at something in our life or in our relationship that we're not satisfied with, feelings that we're having or behaviors, right, the interacting of a relationship, if there's things in a relationship that we're not satisfied with, a lot of times one of the key principles we want to get back to is the perceptions that are tied to the emotions that are driving the behaviors, both for me and for my partner, right? Those perceptions become really vital. And many times perceptions are askew, which means they're not aligned in a way that are helpful to individual healing and relational healing. So an example of this recently is I'm working with this lady recently, and her husband's pretty terrible at emotional intimacy. Now, she's not alone in that, right? There's many wives out there who have husbands that struggle with emotional intimacy, that for whatever reason, the husband just wasn't exposed to a lot of emotional intimacy growing up. And it's made it really hard for him to be emotionally vulnerable and emotionally expressive and emotionally connective in their relationship, right? But because it's so natural for this woman that I'm working with, because it's so natural for her, it's easy for her to feel like he just doesn't love her because he doesn't engage emotional intimacy often in their relationship, right? So he doesn't exhibit a lot of emotional connecting behavior. He doesn't try to strike out on deep, meaningful talks with each other, or divulging to her meaningful things from his day, showing interest in meaningful things that she would share about her day. He's not doing a lot of that naturally. And it's easy for her, from her frame of reference, to say that should be natural for him. So if it's natural for him and he's not doing it, he must not be doing it because I'm not a priority. And if I'm not a priority to him, what does that mean about me, right? He must not love me, or at least he must not love me as much as I love him, because it doesn't seem like he tries to emotionally connect with me, right? And he definitely doesn't initiate emotional engagement with me. And so it's really caused a lot of hurt for her in the relationship. Over time, she's become more and more emotionally withdrawn herself, and she's much more defensive in her behavior, and much less attentive on her side of the relationship as well to him and his preferences and his desires in the relationship because of this hurt, right? So as we've started working together, right? One of the key principles to her individual healing and to her relational healing is what we call a reframe. A reframe is when I take meaning out of one context and I move that meaning into a different context. And in this example, the reframe that we're hoping for is that I can help her reframe his lack of emotional connection, his lack of emotional intimacy, to reframe it from a place that says it's easy for him to do, he just chooses not to do it because he doesn't love me, right? That meaning's kind of like I don't matter to him. And trying to move it to a place of I do matter to him. He does love me. He's just not good at it, right? Because if we can effectively reframe, right, take that hurt that she feels, that pain that she feels, and the behavioral withdrawal she's starting to do in the relationship, if we can move the meaning from I don't matter to him to he's not good at it, we might be able to increase her patience, right, her kindness, her empathy as he's trying to learn this skill, that she's not taking it so personal and sensitive while he tries to learn to be more emotionally connective, right? Which would be healing for her because then she's not walking around all day feeling like the thing that doesn't matter to him, and healing for the marriage because now she's positioned to maybe even educate, teach, support, reinforce, encourage, strengthen, nurture his efforts while he's trying to learn that emotional intimacy, right? So healing for her individually and healing for the marriage. But it's going to require a reframe. It's going to require that in her mind, she's able to move, to flex that mental muscle, to move the meaning from I don't matter to I do matter, and he's just not good at this, right? Which can be a really hard push. The communication in our brain travels through neural pathways. And because these neural pathways get bigger, the more they're exercised, just like a muscle, it's easier for us to kind of set on thinking that sometimes is harmful to ourselves and to the relationship, right? The easiest thing, the path that she's kind of traveled the most in this relationship is if I mattered more, he would do more emotional connecting, right? And that neural pathway's gotten strong like a muscle. It's gotten so strong that it's hard for her to move this meaning, right? And maybe the issue isn't that I don't matter. Maybe I do matter. Maybe he's just not good at this. It's hard for her to move the meaning to that place because that muscle, that neural pathway is weak. It hasn't been exercised so much, right? The muscle that says, maybe I do matter, maybe he's just not good at that, right? In her mind. It's weak. And so when they get in a tug of war, guess which one wins, right? The one that says I don't matter. So this time under tension becomes a really important principle for the mind. If we think about the mind as a muscle, the more that she pushes, each time she does a rep, right, to use exercise language, each time she pushes that thought to, no, remember, he loves you, he's just not good at this. Every time she pushes, that's a rep, right? And the more that she pushes, the more instances that she pushes that reframe, and the more time she spends in the struggle with that reframe, the stronger that new thought is going to get. And connected to that new thought, you'll remember the thought that says, I do matter, maybe I do matter, he's just not good at it. The more that thought gets strong, right, the more her emotions follow into a place of sympathy, empathy, kindness, patience, right, generosity, right? Her emotions can shift as well. She's not hurt as much, right? She's able to hold a healthier frame for what's happening. And then, of course, her behavior can exercise in that place too, right? Kindness and generosity in the relationship, reinforcing and encouraging him, right? Instead of being critical of him and defensive, right? And in these ways, she's not only healing herself, but she's helping create a fertile ground for healing in the marriage, right? So this time under tension principle, I hope that's helpful for you. In the comments below, share a scenario in your relationship where this time under tension principle might be of benefit, right? So apply that to your relationship and tell us about it. Tell us how this principle may be beneficial to your own individual healing or something going on in your relationship. As always, thank you so much for supporting us. We hope you like our channel, that you're subscribed to our channel. And if you know anybody who could benefit from this content, help us get connected to them. We're grateful to be with you today. We look forward to being with you again soon. Take care.